Hey guys, so first of all, my child's sleeping over there, so if you hear snoring, that's him. Second of all, I don't know what's going on, why suddenly I'm just all broken out all over my chin, but I am working from home anyways, and I don't see the point in putting makeup on to cover it just for a video and then make it worse. So I hope you guys can appreciate my realness. I'm guessing it's like a hormonal thing, a hormonal change postpartum. Who fucking knows? Because my baby has it also. He has like little zits on his cheek, and his baby acne already like came and went, and so now he's got a couple back. I keep joking that we're like E.T. and Elliot, because when his stomach is messed up, my stomach is messed up. When he's having a bad day, I'm having a bad day. When I get zits, he gets zits. So who knows? Today's video is a request from Adam Halsley. Thank you so much, Adam, for the request. I want to make sure I said your last name right. It is about the Wineville chicken coop murders, which is yet another one that I have not heard of. So I'm so appreciative of my subscribers. Let me just say, you guys have heard of so many cases that I've never heard of. And it's like all of us collectively getting together, we're educating each other. We're spreading awareness on these cases. So I'm so grateful for my subs. You guys are awesome. So let's get started. I've got my notes here. I might be a little scatterbrained on them because I typically like to do my notes as easy speaking points, and when I did the research for this, I kind of like compiled what notes there were, and I didn't clarify them for future Haley so much, so thanks past Haley. So I apologize if I'm like pausing or, you guys get it. I'm gonna stop rambling now. So the Wineville chicken coop murders were a series of abductions and murders of young boys that occurred in the city of Los Angeles and in Riverside County, California between 1926 and 1928. Gordon Stewart Northcott was born and raised in Canada. He moved to LA with his parents in 1924. And 2 years later, at age 19, he asked his father to purchase a plot of land in the community of Wineville, where he built a chicken ranch and a house with the help of both his father and his nephew, Sanford Clark. It was under this pretext that Northcott used basically to bring Sanford Clark from Canada to the U.S. to beat and sexually abuse him. In August of 1928, out of concern for his welfare, Clark's 19-year-old older sister Jessie visited him at the Wineville ranch. And at that time, Clark confided in her that he was afraid for his life. Now, one night while Northcott was asleep, Jessie learned from Clark that he had murdered 4 boys at his ranch. Once she returned to Canada 1 week later, Jessie informed an American consul that there were crimes happening, at Northcott's farm or chicken land, whatever you want to call it. The consul then wrote a letter to the LAPD detailing Jessie's sworn complaint. Because there was initially some concern over an immigration issue, the LAPD contacted the United States Immigration Service to determine facts relative to the complaint. On August 31st, 1928, 2 Immigration Service inspectors, Judson F. Shaw and George W. Scalorn, visited the ranch and took Clark into custody. Northcott had seen the agents driving up the long road to his ranch before fleeing into the tree line. He told Clark to stall him, or else he, Northcott, would shoot Clark from the tree line with a rifle. During the next 2 hours, while Clark stalled, Northcott kept running. Finally, when Clark felt that the agents were able to protect him, he told them that Northcott had fled into the trees, which lined the edge of his property. Now, Northcott and his mother, Sarah Louise, fled to Canada, but were arrested near Vernon in British Columbia on September 19th of 1928. Clark testified at Sarah Louise's sentencing, because she does have some involvement, that Northcott had kidnapped, molested, beaten, and killed 3 young boys with the help of his mother and Clark himself. Clark also testified about the murder of a 4th young man, a Mexican citizen, after which Northcott had forced Clark to help dispose of the victim's head by burning it in a fire pit and then crushing the skull. Northcott stated that he left the headless body beside the road near Puente because he had no other place to put it. He stated that quick lime was used to dispose of the remains and that the bodies were buried on the ranch. Now, I'm going to touch on the victims that were sadly involved in this. Not involved, but were brought into this. Walter Collins, who was born on September 23rd of 1918. The date of his exact death is unknown. He was 9 years old, when he was abducted, and it was believed that the abduction occurred when he went to the movies and never came back on March 10th of 1928. He lived in Lincoln Heights of Los Angeles. Now, initially, his mother, Christine, and the police believed that enemies of Walter Collins Sr. had abducted Walter. Walter Collins Sr. had been convicted of 8 armed robberies and was an inmate at Folsom State Prison. Walter Collins his disappearance received national attention, and the LAPD followed up hundreds of leads without success. 5 months after Walter's disappearance, a boy claiming to be Walter was found in DeKalb, Illinois. Letters and photographs were exchanged before Walter's mother, Christine, eventually paid for the boy to be brought to Los Angeles. A public reunion was organized by the police, who hoped to negate the bad publicity they had received for their failure to solve this case, as well as other cases. And the police also hoped that the uplifting story would deflect attention from a series of corruption scandals that had sullied the department's reputation. At the reunion, Christine stated that the boy was not her son. She was told by the officer in charge of the case, Police Captain J.J. Jones, to take the boy home and try him out for a couple of weeks. Christine hesitantly agreed to do this. Like, why? It's not my kid. I'm not going to try him out and keep him. So, 3 weeks later, Christine returned to see Captain Jones and persisted in her claim that the boy was not Walter. Even though she had dental records proving it, Jones had her committed to a psychiatric ward at Los Angeles County Hospital under a Code 12, which is a term used to jail or commit someone who is deemed difficult or inconvenient. Wow. This case just gets really interesting. During Christine's incarceration, Jones questioned the boy, who admitted to being 12-year-old Arthur Hutchins Jr., a runaway originally from Iowa. A drifter at a roadside cafe in Illinois had told Hutchins of his resemblance to the missing Walter, so Hutchins came up with a plan to impersonate Walter. His motive was to get to Hollywood so that he could meet his favorite actor, Tom Mix. Christine was released 10 days after Hutchins admitted that he was not her son. She then filed a lawsuit against the LAPD. Good for her. I'm not one to be like, let's sue anybody for everything, but hell yeah, that's trauma. Like, no. On September 13th of 1930, Christine won the lawsuit against Jones and was awarded $10,800, approximately the equivalent of $154,000 today, which Jones never paid. The last newspaper account of Christine is from 1941, when she attempted to collect a $15,562 judgment against Captain Jones, who was by then retired, in the Superior Court. Christine became hopeful that her son Walter might still be alive after her first interview with Gordon Stewart Northcott. She asked Northcott if he had killed her son, and after listening to his repeated lies, confessions, and recantations, she concluded that Northcott was insane. Because Northcott did not seem to know whether he had even met Walter, much less killed him, she clung to the hope that Walter was still alive. Northcott sent Christine a telegram shortly before his execution, saying he had lied when he denied that Walter was among his victims. He promised to tell the truth if she came in person to hear it. Just a few hours before the execution, Christine visited Northcott, but upon her arrival, he balked, "I don't want to see you." He said when she confronted him, "I don't know anything about it. I'm innocent." A news account said the distraught woman was outraged by Northcott's conduct, but was also comforted by it. Northcott's ambiguous replies and his seeming refusal to remember such details as Walter's clothing and the color of his eyes gave her continued hope that her son still lived. One suspected victim of the chicken coop murders, in 1935, 5 years after Northcott's execution, a boy and his parents came forward and spoke to authorities. 7 years earlier, the boy had gone missing and the parents had reported his disappearance to the police. At the time of the boy's disappearance, authorities speculated that he might have been a murder victim at Wineville. Sanford Clark, however, never told authorities that a boy had escaped from the chicken coop. The historical record and Sanford Clark's own testimony indicate that only 3 boys were ever held in the chicken coop. These were Walter Collins and the 2 Winslow brothers, all of whom were murdered. Now, the body parts being found. Authorities found 3 shallow graves exactly where Clark had stated they were located. It was found, however, that these graves did not contain complete bodies, but only parts of the bodies. During testimony from both Clark and his sister Jessie, it was learned that the bodies had been dug up by Northcott and his mother on the evening of August 4th, 1928, a few weeks before Clark was taken into protective custody. They had taken the bodies out to a deserted area where they were most likely burned in the night. The complete bodies were never recovered. The evidence found in the graves consisted of 51 parts of human anatomy. Those silent bits, this is a quote, of evidence of human bones and blood have spoken and corroborated the testimony of living witnesses. This evidence enabled the authorities to conclude that Walter Collins, the 2 Winslow brothers, and the unidentified 4th victim had all been murdered. The body parts were found, coupled with the testimony of Clark, resulted in a death sentence for Gordon Northcott and life imprisonment for Sarah Louise Northcott. Canadian police arrested Gordon Stewart Northcott and his mother on September 19th, 1928. Due to errors in the extradition paperwork, however, they were not returned to Los Angeles until November 30th of that year. While Sarah Northcott and her son Gordon were being held in British Columbia awaiting extradition to California, Sarah confessed to the murders, including that of a 9-year-old Walter Collins. But before being extradited to California, she retracted her confession, as did Gordon, who had confessed to killing more than 5 boys. After Sarah and her son had been extradited to California, she once again confessed and pleaded guilty to killing Walter Collins. She was not put on trial upon her plea of guilty. Superior Court Judge Morton sentenced her to life imprisonment on December 31st, 1928, sparing her the death penalty because she was a woman. During her sentencing hearing, she claimed that her son was innocent and made a variety of bizarre claims about his parentage, including that he was an illegitimate son of an English nobleman, that she was Gordon's grandmother, and that he was the result of incest between her husband, Cyrus, and their daughter. She also stated that as a child, Gordon was sexually abused by the entire family, so she was doing anything she could to basically save her son from being in trouble. She served her sentence at the, I don't know how to pronounce this, Tehachapi State Prison, and was paroled after less than 12 years. She died in 1944. Gordon was implicated in the murder of Walter Collins, but because his mother had already confessed and been sentenced for it, the state chose not to prosecute Gordon in that murder. It was speculated that Gordon may have killed as many as 20 boys, but the state of California could not produce evidence to support that speculation. Ultimately, the state only brought an indictment against Gordon for the murders of an unidentified underage Mexican national, known as the Headless Mexican, and the brothers Lewis and Nelson Winslow. In early 1929, Gordon Northcott's trial was held before Judge George R. Freeman in Riverside County, California. The jury heard that he kidnapped, molested, tortured, and murdered the Winslow brothers and the Headless Mexican in 1928. On February 8th of 1929, the 27-day trial ended with Gordon being convicted of these murders. On February 13th of 1929, Freeman sentenced him to death, and he was hanged on October 2nd, 1930, at the San Quentin State Prison. He was 23 years old. Now, Wineville has since changed its name to Mira Loma. That happened on November 1st of 1930, due in large part to the negative publicity surrounding the murders. The new cities of Eastvale and Jurupa Valley took different parts of the area of Mira Loma in 2010 and 2011. Wineville Avenue, Wineville Road, Wineville Park, and other geographic references do still exist as reminders of the community's former name. Clark returned to Canada, where city records indicate that he died on June 20th of 1991. He was buried in the Saskatoon Woodlawn Cemetery on August 26th of 1993. So that is the story of the Wineville chicken coop murders. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm very sorry for the way I read all that, but honestly, most of the information that I could find on it was just Wikipedia because it's a very old case and not very well known. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much again, Anna Halsey, for the request. If you guys like this video, please hit the thumbs up button below. If you have any suggestions for videos, true crime or otherwise, please leave those in the comments below. If you'd like to see more, please hit the subscribe button as I upload new videos every Wednesday. And other than that, I will see you guys next week. Bye.